All right. That was quick. So quick to start. Happy Friday. Welcome to it. Welcome to the office. It's another rainy day in Portland. Kind of nice though. Got a nice long run in this morning. So that was good. What we're going to do today is keep working on our introduction to React. So if you've been following along with the series, feel free to jump on in and ask any questions that you have. This last video that we put out on Wednesday was on Zustand. Trying to get that pronunciation right. It's right in my head, but it's not right when it comes out of my mouth for some reason. Zustand. There you go. I think that's about right. Anyway, Zustand is one of a new class of what I'm calling, for lack of an acknowledged term yet, micro state managers. So what's happened is that in 2019, basically, we started moving. We got React hooks 2018, 2019, and state in components became okay again. Because for a long time there, people were like, oh, you got to have everything in global state. It's all got to be in some massive Redux store in the Flux pattern and all that. And state inside of components is bad. So now that we have hooks, it's like, oh, nope, state inside components is actually okay. But the problem is when you use state and use context together, you actually don't get really good performance, because what happens is anytime context changes, then anything from that context provider down actually gets updated. So you don't really get good. And I'm gonna go and bring up my hi Austin, how you doing? Let me bring that over there so I can see your chats as I'm working here. Yeah, so anything from that context provider down is going to update anytime that value changes. So that means that if you've got basically big global state, then your entire, and you have a provider at the top of the tree, then every time that provider changes, that entire tree gets redone. And that's not great, particularly in large apps. So we kind of need Redux again. And the problem is that Redux has all this boilerplate in it. And I was a little bit derelict in my stuff about Redux and my videos about Redux. I should have used also Redux Toolkit, which actually makes Redux a bit more palatable. But even with that, you still got a lot of boilerplate. And so there's a bunch of new micro state managers that have come out to kind of fill that gap. Right? Basically give you global state, but not have it be so crazy and hard to maintain. And the first one that I kind of found for myself was Zustand. And I like it a lot. It's got a great model to it. Basically, the idea is you bring in this library. You can't actually select this code. It's this really cool like 3D thing here, but I just love that. It's absolutely gorgeous. But you can't select the code. So the first thing you do is you create it, you import create, and then you create a hook. You're basically creating a new custom hook for yourself. And you call it, for example, use store, whatever you want to call it, use global, whatever you want. And then you get as parameters you give it a function, which takes, in this case, a parameter called set. You give it your data structure, which has all your fields and values, as well as any setters, which is cool. So in this case, inc will then set the state to be the count +1. And then on the consumption side, you get, for example, in this case, the state incrementer by just using useStore. You get the state, and then you pick off the pieces that you want. So in this case, state inc will give you that incrementer. And in this case, state.count will give you the raw count. Let's see. So there's also Valtio, which is really cool. Similar kind of idea, very lightweight, very MobX-y. I have had videos on that out for a little while. You should go check that out if that's interesting to you. There's another model called, well, there's two of these, Recoil and Jotai, are basically the same model. You have these things called atoms, and you can create atoms that are basically single instances of global state. and then just depend on those atoms. So if you got like a use state in one spot and you're like, oh, I just need that to be global, this is actually a really nice way to get there. And you can actually really do these really cool things where you can actually have pieces of these atoms depend on each other, and so you can kind of create like a network of atoms that provides the views on the data that you want. So it's actually kind of cool. Anyway, both Jotai and Recoil have that similar sort of surface area. And then there's one that a viewer just kind of pointed me to that's been around since 2019 actually, called Unstated Next, which is again very kind of similar to I guess in this case like a Zustand. But here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go and convert our Pokemon app to Zustand today. So I'm really excited. And yeah, if you have any, just for my sake, if you have any plans for the weekend or something like that, let me know. I'm just kind of curious. My plans for the weekend are my kids coming home. That's cool. Perhaps you should be really desperate. Well, on Zustand? Yeah, okay. I mean, these are all very small, state machines. I think there's a lot of apps out there that are in the space where, they're still working on Redux or MobX and they haven't ported across yet. But if you're starting out a new app, these are the kind of state managers that you want to look at to see how you can to use. Yeah, there you go. Nice to see you, Vlad. Welcome to the party. Let's go take a look at our code. And so we got our Pokemon search app. And we can do this kind of stuff where you can give it a filter, you can click more information, that kind of thing. It's nice, I'm actually thinking I have a request in from Brad Travesey to do another video for him, and I've actually been thinking about doing one on Valshio and Jotai, because I think they're cool, and I've been thinking about like what I want to use for the data set for that. And instead of Pokemon, I'm actually thinking to do beers, because we've got all these local brew houses and tap houses, and they all have online list of taps. For example, like let's see, my local one is Happy Valley Growlers, and you can actually get a tap list from these guys and see what's available. And then it could be kind of cool, make a little app that tells you, it allows you to like search by like, I guess, alcohol percentage or ingredients, whatever, I guess single hop. I think anyway, a different data set that I think is kind of cool. Anyway, okay. So, but now we've got our Pokemon and we want to go over to Zustand. Hope I'm getting that pronunciation right. I was called out on that in the comments. It's a German word. You should say it like in German. Okay. So let's do yarn add Zustand. I like how it's just one thing, it's not like Zustand and then Zustand React or whatever. It's like, this is gonna be a React thing. So, all right, here we go. So we've got our Zustand. So let's go over here to our Pokemon. And wow, it's just a lot of boilerplate, right? I mean, this is we did this Redux stuff last week, and it's a lot of boilerplate. Look at all this stuff we have to do to make this thing work. That's a lot of stuff going on there. Okay, so let's go and bring in, should we make it in the same file? Yes, let's do that. So let's bring in create from Zustand. And then we're going to go and create a use store. Create. And again, it takes a setter, and it's going to return an object. So let's see. And we also want to export that. We'll just export use store for the moment. Actually, here we go. Export that. Okay. So what do we have in here? And then let's just keep the everything happy. Okay, so we're gonna have Pokemon filter state. That's actually okay. We can keep that. So let's see, Pokemon filter state, and this is TypeScript. So we're gonna do create and give it the type we want. And so we're not. Okay, let's fix that. Pokemon. Okay, here we go. There, yeah. Are you happy now? Should be. Oh, duplicate identifier. Okay, let's get rid of that then. Cool. Okay. So now it's telling us that we're not returning the correct value, so that's true. So Pokemon is that. Filter is a empty string. Filtered Pokemon is an empty array, and selected Pokemon is null. Okay, cool. So that's nice, but now we need actions on that, right? Because if we look over at how Zustand does it, like for example, we have some actions we want to perform on this. We want to set things, we want to set a filter, we want to set the Pokemon and all that. So how do we do that? Well, got to go and add ourselves some setters. And because that's the result of this is supposed to be this Pokemon filter state, then we have to add them here first. So let's see, I want to do set filter, I guess. And I'll take a string and return a void, I guess. Okay, let's see. Let's try that. Set filter. And that's going to take a new string. We'll call it filter. And then we'll do set, which we got here, right? And what do we need to do? We're going to get a state, and we're going to need to return a new state. So let's get our state. And then we're going to return a new state. So we'll start with copying everything that's already in the state, and then we'll set filter. That looks pretty clean to me. Okay, I'm in. I'm sold. Looks nice. And then let's call it filter. There we go. All right, so let's do the same thing for Pokemon. And this will take a list of Pokemon. All right, and we'll do that. Set Pokemon. And it'll take a list of Pokemon. And there you go. And then we got to go and set the selected Pokemon. Which will take another Pokemon. We'll take a selected Pokemon, type Pokemon. And there you go. And let's copy that across over here and give it a void. All right. And that's set selected Pokemon. Forgot to make that a verb. Okay, cool. It's actually looking pretty clean. Let's see. Okay, is that telling me anything I need to know? Not yet. Okay. So, I see. Now, yeah, I'm messing up our Redux stuff, which is fine. We'll just delete all the Redux stuff when we're done. Now, the last thing to do here would be to deal with this filtered Pokemon. So, what's the best way to do that? Well, I think what we should do is just make like a little function that creates this sort of thing, like build or filter the Pokemon. I never use the in something like that. So let's see. It's going to take Pokemon and it's going to take filter, or it's going to take the new filter in this case. And in this one, it's just going to be filtered Pokemon is Pokemon. Because this is when you start up, you're just going to refresh all of the Pokemon. So let's see. I don't like the in there. I think it's silly. So let's see. I don't know, whatever. Filter Pokemon. How about that? Filter Pokemon. It's going to take a list of Pokemon and a string, which is the filter. And I think we've already got the code for this, and I'm lazy. So let's go grab that. Hey, look at that. Hey. Oh. That's actually the whole thing already. So let's go just grab that. All right, filter Pokemon. Okay, pretty cool. So, all right. Let's get rid of our Redux. We no longer need that. And should we let's see. I think that's good. So we'll use store. We're exporting that. So what do we got into here? So let's recap. So we're bringing in Zustand. This is from before Pokemon. That just defines what we're dealing with. We got the state of our store, which was originally this, but we've added on some methods to it. Easy peasy. We've got our filter Pokemon, which is just a generic function that takes a list of Pokemon and filters them. Can be used in any context. And then we are back into Zustand land by creating our custom React hook using create. We're giving it create as a generic type, is defined as a TypeScript generic. Therefore, you can give it a type, and it can essentially instantiates a specific version of, well, a create that is specific to that type. That gives us our setter. We then set up all the standard values with basically default values, and then we have our setters, which is actually really clean. So let's use this. Okay, so one at a time. Let's go over to Pokemon filter, and let's see what we got. So we're going to bring in use store, and we're going to go bring that down here. Let's see, use store. Oh, that actually is right. Okay, so we need filter, and then we need set filter, right? Set filter. And we can do just set filter with the target value. So no more dispatch, no more craziness, no more action types, none of that. That looks pretty good. Okay, and then we can get rid of that. Okay, I'm in. Pokemon info. This is using a selector from Redux. So let's get rid of that and use store. And actually, wow, that's one and done. And we can get rid of that console. So basically, again, we're getting use store. It's getting all the state right here. And we're just picking off of that the selected Pokemon. Really clean. Pokemon row is just a basic display type. So we're going to get rid of that. Let's see. Okay, and then finally, the Pokemon table. Let's see. Again, we'll use store. Get rid of that. And we'll go over here to use selector. That's actually right. And now what are we dispatching? We're dispatching set selected Pokemon. So let's do that. Set selected Pokemon. I like how it hasn't, VS Code really hasn't caught up with what we're doing yet. It's still giving me hints based on old code. Okay. That looks pretty good. I mean, we could shorthand this and just do set selected Pokemon if we want to try that out, right? Because that's basically that. Okay. Yeah, I think this might work. The one thing we're not doing yet is we're not setting the Pokemon. So we need to go over into our app and let's go and do that. So we're going to bring in, again, we're going to bring in use store. But this time it's in the same directory. So we're just going to use // on that. And let's take a look. So use store for the Pokemon to get the Pokemon. And then we need to set the Pokemon. So let's do that. Set Pokemon. And then we'll set it to the payload. That should about do it. Can I do something like const? Yeah, definitely. Let's try this first, and then if this doesn't blow up, we'll go for it. We'll do that. It'd be good for me to start the app at this point. Oh, also I don't have a provider, so let's go and get rid of that. Okay. In fact, actually, we can just export app now. That's actually one of the things that sort of distinguishes each one of these different solutions. Is some need providers, some don't need providers. I'm actually not clear whether do we need a provider for Zustand? Let's see. It doesn't look like it, does it? I think we're good. All right, let's take a look here. Okay, React create context. Oh, look at that. Okay, what am I doing? I'm creating context. I don't need that. Okay, so we don't need that anymore, and let's go find out where it's getting imported and kill it. All right. Well, that looks fine. Oh, There we go. Look at that. Okay, cool. So it looks like we're going here. That's not working. Okay, that's fine. OnClick is not a function. That's true. Oh, I see. Okay, that was where I did this thing here, right? So I did set selected Pokemon, set selected Pokemon. Oh, haha, look at that. I messed up on the name. So actually, how good is set selected Pokemon? So TypeScript to the rescue there. Set selected Pokemon. All right, one more time. Oh, looking great. Okay, cool. So Vlad, let's go and check out your thing here. Actually, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to go grab your code from your comment here. And let's see if it works. Can we do this? Can we do filter Pokemon, set filtered Pokemon? You got it right. Haha, look at you. Okay, and then in this case, we're just going to go get all of state and return it as state and see if that works. Oh, I see. I'm wrong, but that's okay. So let's see. It's filter Pokemon and set selected Pokemon. And yeah, that works. That's great. So yeah, you can do this, or if you kind of want to still filter it down to just the stuff that you need, you can go kind of longhand, and boy, keep rolling around there, and then do that. Okay, so yeah, that actually looks a lot nicer once prettier is actually letting it all out. So here we're destructuring out filter Pokemon, set selected Pokemon. We're getting set selected Pokemon and filter Pokemon from the store and just returning them as is. I don't know which is better. I've definitely seen my fair share of Redux code that looks like, you know, state to state like that. So that's fine by me. Does useStore should be a function, or can it just be useStore? Oh yeah. Well, I mean, can it be? Let's try that. useStore. Oh wow, it actually looks like wow, neat. Okay, there you go. There's no. Well, let's see. Okay, so what's the difference here? Is what Menendra is asking. So in this case, let's go take a look. So this case, we are just getting the values that we need and returning the values that we need. In this one, we are returning all of state. And then in this one, we are also, I believe, returning all of state. Vlad's like, less code. That is true. It is less code. I think we'd have to like go on to the, I don't know, onto the Zustand issues and ask if there's any kind of performance difference here. That's a good point. Won't be a good way to test that. Well, one more thing before we test that, Mainendra. Let's actually go and fix this. So I actually came up with this list of. I would understand if I'm drunk. I like that. That's a good litmus test. One more thing before we finish on. So in my list of a couple videos back, I did this kind of litmus test of what I needed from a micro state manager. It was actually kind of nice. So one thing was the ability to store, values. Obviously, it can do that. Another thing was the ability to connect actions associated with the state. It can do that. Another thing I would like personally is the ability to use this thing outside of the React context. And the reason being, so I'm over an app, we're doing this use effect. And the only reason it's a use effect, and the only reason it's here, is because this is basically a component did mount. And we're looking to go and lazy load this list of Pokemon. So it's just ugly. And what I'd rather do is actually have this over in store. So let's go do that. Let's go bring this into store like that. And now how are we going to actually do this? How do we do that? Well, what we get back here is we get a list of Pokemon. And we can be really nice about it. We can actually just like type it and all that. So it's Pokemon is an array. Look at that. All TypeScripty niceness. And then useStore actually has set state on it. Thank you again for getting the TypeScript bindings on this. It makes it a lot easier to play with. So set state then, I believe, let's see. So I believe it gives you the state again. And in this case, we're just going to go and, boy, I think we should just call it like that. We'll take all of state and then set Pokemon and filter Pokemon just like that. All right, cool. And now we can go back over here and we can remove this React use effect. We can remove that set Pokemon because we no longer need it. And let's run and refresh, and looks good. And so what's happening is use effect called on every re-render? No, it is not. And the reason it is because I'm using this empty array here, and that empty array is synonymous with saying run only on the first time that component loaded. So that's why that use effect doesn't get run on every single re-render. If I were to do this, it would get run on every re-render. If I were to do this Pokemon, for example, it would get run every time Pokemon is changed. So this is basically your list of dependencies that when anything in this list changes, then this gets rerun. So that's how that works. But again, I'm not a huge fan of component did mount or its analog, which is React use effect with an empty array. So I think this is actually much cleaner. Yeah, actually, I think that's really pretty. So one thing I'm kind of curious about, and I don't know this, so this is where I'm going to learn something new, is can I get state on this thing and then because I mean, we're basically replicating this functionality right here, right? And if this functionality changes, then this functionality doesn't, and you'd have a bug. So is there a way I can do that? So let me just open up a function here. And to see if this doesn't, if we're right about this being executed or not, let's just go and save that off. Yeah, okay. So this is no longer running because we don't have any Pokemon to work with. So that's actually happening. So let's see. Use store. Can I do a get state? Oh, I can. Okay, cool. So if I get state, then I think I can do set Pokemon and just do Pokemon like that. Can I do that? Does that work? Okay. Hey, it does! Hey, nice. So that is much, much cleaner than what I did there before, because now there's only one thing that we ever use to set a Pokemon and set our list of Pokemon, and there you go. Was showing some, yes, I know. Well, the reason, why was it doing that? Well, it was doing that because it appeared to react as if I was referencing a local, which in this case I believe was Pokemon, or no, it was set Pokemon. Let me undo this a couple times. So okay, so why is it telling us that? That's a good point. So let's zoom in on this. React hook use effect has a missing dependency, set Pokemon. Either include it or remove the dependency array, both of which would be disastrous. So sometimes you don't always want to listen to your warnings. But basically what it's telling us is to do that. And yeah, and that would get rid of the warning. Would that work? I'm not sure. Let's give that a try. So let's get rid of this for the time being, because that's doing the same thing. And well, we'll just make sure that this isn't, okay, so there we go. Okay, that doesn't work. That's cool. Now let's reuse that. Hit save, and it works. Okay, cool. So how many times does this get run? Running fetch. Okay. Let's go over here to our inspector. And it looks like running fetch. It only gets run once. Cool. Okay, well, yeah, that would work then. Okay. So what's happening here is we're getting this function. That function never changes. So this value is going to get be set once, and then that way it's only ever going to get run once. and because the actual pointer to the function that is set Pokemon never changes, because we basically define it up here once as set Pokemon, or sorry, that's the type. Actually, let me go down here. See, we set it once, and this actual function pointer would never change. So that's why this will get run once and once only. So yeah, there you go. Again, though, I don't like this code, so I'm going to kill it. But there you go, Manindra. That's right. And thank you for pointing out that we had a problem in the console. That, you know, that makes these videos so much better when you guys go and give me all this feedback and ask these questions, because there are other people that are going to ask those questions too. They're going to be like, hey, what do you mean? Why didn't that work? Why does that work? Why are you getting that warning there? In fact, I had somebody just recently like, hey, by the way, you know, your ESLint is disabled. And I'm like, okay, you know. I'm actually having a problem right now on my work code in that the prettier and the ESLint RC are not fusing properly in the project. Boy, that's a pain in the butt. I have grown so accustomed to prettier that I cannot work without it. Like it's now baked into my brain that, like, because I hate the idea that, like, oh, I just go and, you know, I'll randomly go and copy and paste in code and it'll be all messed up formatting wise. And I just hit save and it's just fixed. Just fixed. You know, I don't need to deal with that. I ain't got time for that. So anyway, I love, and that's prettier, by the way. That's what prettier does for you. Okay, so yeah, well, not a big video today. I mean, I think Zustand's really cool. I think if you were to compare this to a Redux app, I don't know. In my playbook, I would say this is a lot cleaner, right? There's almost zero boilerplate in here that I can see. Yeah, I mean, we need the type for Pokemon. We need the type for the type for the state is, hey, Keenan, is it required? Yes, I would say it's required. The reason being that if you get rid of these, yeah, and get rid of this, what TypeScript is going to do is it's going to try to infer types from this, and it's going to infer them wrong. It's going to infer this would be, and this to be like a, oh yeah, okay, Vlad, that's a great idea. Let me do that. So Vlad wants to know how do you do an isLoading state. So Pokemon here, right? We initialize it with an empty array. So uStore then knows that, oh, there's supposed to be a Pokemon thing, but it's supposed to be an array. I don't know an array of what though. And so that's why we need this Pokemon filter state in there. Okay, so Vlad's asking, how would we do an isLoading? isLoading. And we'll set that to a Boolean. Good point. So we'll do that. isLoading is false down here. And, or actually, it's true. And let's see. So when we set the Pokemon, we're going to want to say isLoading is now false. And from then on, it will go from true to false. And let's go over here to app, which is where we're doing that. And instead of Pokemon here, we're going to go and grab isLoading, because that's basically synonymous with whether you've got your Pokemon or not. And we'll do isLoading. So let's refresh that. And okay, so let's never load and see if that works. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Now it's constantly in the loading data state. So there you go. In fact, actually, come to think of it, yes, thank you, Vlad, because it was never in the isLoading state because we defaulted Pokemon to an empty array, which in the original code would have basically just put a null display up on the screen, like an empty text field with nothing on below it. So this is good. Now, I would say, Vlad, that we should continue on a little bit and see if we can do a generated state here. I don't know if this works or not. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. So if we do something like this, get is loading, and it should return this filtered Pokemon not equal to null. Okay. And now is loading should be automatically redone. We'll see. I don't know. I haven't tried this yet, so we'll see if this works. Okay. It is doing that. Oh, I see. Okay. So this never... Yeah. Okay, this doesn't work. So, can I see if it's ever getting called? Console.log is loading. What I think's happening here is that Zustand doesn't know. Yeah, it's getting called a bunch of times. That it's actually changing. So let's go take a look and see what this is at this point. This is horrible tricks with console. Here we go. Is loading this. All right. Yeah, huh. This type Pokemon array is 0. Huh. That's interesting because we are calling said Pokemon. It is an empty array by default, I think. Oh, I got an idea. Hold on. I think you get a get too. There we go. Yes. Get. And how do we call that? Get.Pokemon? Can we do that? All right. Nope. Okay. So, yeah, let me go check that. Okay. So, recipes, use store. So, is there a getter? Oh, yeah, here we go. Set get sound. Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, let's try it with this way. So let's see. Is loading. We'll make it a function. Not perfect, not great, but you know, whatever. And then oh yeah, okay. So let's see. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, wait, hold on. Because I misdefined that, didn't I? So hold on. Get is loading. Why is this blowing up all over the place? Yeah, this should be a getter now. Get is loading. I need to find that. Is a Boolean. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. Well, let's do is loading as a function and then see if that helps. As a regular function. Okay. Is loading is a function that returns a Boolean. All right. Now at least TypeScript is happy. So let's go back over here to our app, and we're gonna call is loading as a function. And nope, that doesn't work either. So, okay. That's okay. I'm not super tweaky about all that. It's fine. You know, yeah. It would be nice to be able to support getters and setters like that. But you can do, as I say, you can do what we did before, which is to have that is loading as a Boolean and then manage it as a primitive value. So let's see, is loading is set to false. I'm just kind of rewriting this so that when I get the code that's actually checked in at some point, I'll check it in and you guys can play with it from there. Is loading is false. Oh, is that true? Oh, Vlad, you were telling me the entire time. Oh gosh, okay. Whoops. Vlad's screaming at me in the comments like, dude, your definition is wrong. Yeah. Okay. So let me fix that, Vlad. I'm sorry. You're right. You're right all along. Yes. Thank you. Okay. So get Pokemon.length is greater than 0. Oh, it equals 0. right? Yes, that's what it is. Okay. Nope. All right. So get Pokemon.length. Okay. Let me read Vlad's comments here because he's okay. How do you use a loading state? Is an empty array by default? I think not null. This Pokemon length is greater than 0. This Pokemon length equals 0, which is what we have now. Is not always. Yeah. Okay. So still looks like it's not happy. Let me try one more thing. How do you define? I guess that's what you did. So this is okay in TypeScript? Should be. Because, I mean, effectively, they're the equivalent. And then go over here to is loading. It's a nice half step anyway. Is loading. Yeah, there you go. React doesn't like to track functions. That's one thing for sure. And when it comes to state, because functions generally don't change, but the result of the function may change. So, okay. All right. Well, that was fun. Let me go and fix this so that I have checkable code. And yeah. Any more questions on Zustand? Feel free to put those in the comments while I'm figuring this all out. I'm gonna default it to false. All right, gonna default it to true. I'm gonna set this to false. Get ourselves a working example again. Yay! Okay, cool, nice. All right, great. Okay, cool. Super cool. All right, well, that was fun. Thank you all for helping out with that. And I think we together have made a better video about Zustand on this one. And for people playing along and learning about React through this series, this is now a more valuable resource. So thank you. Thank you so much. And yeah. Sometimes that's okay, Vlad. Sometimes you do prove that, that's science, right? Sometimes you blow stuff up and you're like, hey, well, don't do that. Turns out that was an experiment. You just got the result that you probably didn't want. Yeah, it's interesting. I would love for Zustand to support getters like that because I think that actually would be really, really nice. But that's okay. Yeah, I still think the surface area of this particular micro state manager is so nice that it's worth using. Honestly, particularly because you don't need to do any kind of providers. You basically, if you have a scenario where you're basically saying, okay, I have this piece of state, it's over on this side of the page, and I need it over on that side of the page as well. I mean, you could go and just create a file, import Zustand, create your own custom hook using this. You can have as many of these as you want, as many different ones as you want. You have both of those components connect to that Zustand hook, and then you've got shared state. You don't need to add a provider. You don't need to add any of that stuff. It's very, very clean. So I think that's excellent. It's a nice upgrade path from use state. Because that's basically what we're talking about right now. We're talking about like, okay, you've got an app. It's using use state and use context. It's not working. It's not efficient. Or it is working, but it's inefficient. How do you go and have state that's atomically set like that? And this is a nice mechanism for that. Okay, well, thanks for hanging out, and probably some more good stuff next week. I'm not sure exactly what. I'm working on a couple of cool videos. I'm actually working on a 2021, what I expect to see out of 2021 video, as well as one on conquering regular expressions. Because I'm actually on tech Twitter, I'm seeing a lot of folks who sort of avoid regular expressions because they're just scared of them. It's a weird, funky syntax. So yeah, it is really clean code. Do I have a Twitch channel? I don't, actually. I had heard a really compelling argument recently that like live coding on Twitch was just not fun to do. Like you get distracted so much of the time that you can't really do it all that well. But hey, if you really think I should be over there, let me know, and I'll think about it. All right. I'm going to go and spend a few minutes over on the Discord channel. If you want to talk to me directly and in person without any kind of recording on, and just ask me any questions you want, I'll probably be there for the next 15 minutes or so. So I'll see you over there. Have a great weekend.